these issues. Let's turn back to Iran quickly. One of the things that someone asked me in the chat was, do you think we'll head towards World War III? Baby girl, we are already in World War III. I mean, what is your criteria? What's your understanding of what a world war is? A world war does not mean the entirety of the world is just at war with all of the world at the same time everywhere. World War I was really just the European powers and their colonies fighting on various continents around the world. The same with the 7 Years' War, the first real world war, back in the 1760s. You saw the British colonies in North America fighting the French colonies in North America. You saw fighting on the Indian subcontinent, in the Middle East, and in Africa, all across the board. It's not that you're just looking at one united issue where you're having, the Avengers versus the X-Men, or, the Justice League versus the Legion of Doom, something along those lines. What you're talking about is a lot of smaller conflicts that are all taking place at the same time for various ideological reasons. Look, the Italians weren't fighting for the same reasons that the Japanese were fighting, for example, but they were on the same team. The Chinese weren't fighting for the same reasons that the Russians were fighting, but they ended up being on the same team, kinda, at some points during World War II. And we're seeing that currently. Pull out a map when you get a chance, and then start looking. If you start from the eastern border of China, you can go from there all the way to Central Europe, and nearly every nation is at war all along that line. Pakistan and Afghanistan are in a state of open war right now. Last year, Pakistan and India went to war, and they are still very much in the midst of a very tenuous ceasefire. On the other side of Pakistan and Afghanistan is Iran, which is currently at war with the U.S., Israel, bombing Qatar, Oman, Bahrain, Egypt, Azerbaijan, Turkey, all the way to Cyprus. They're sending missiles. So when we talk about can they hit the Suez Canal, absolutely they can hit the Suez Canal. They've already hit Cyprus. Keep going on from there. Israel's also bombing Lebanon. Yemen is still in the middle of a civil war. Keep going on from there. Sudan is in a civil war. Congo and Rwanda are in the middle of a ceasefire where you're still seeing mass killings across borders and in small villages. Let's go north from there. Well, Turkey, as I said, has already been attacked by Iran, but also the Kurdish populations in eastern Turkey. They are very much in talks with the Kurdish populations in Iraq for potential ground invasion of Iran in order to create a free Turkestan or a free Kurdistan. Go a little bit to the east from there. Azerbaijan and Armenia went to war last year over Nagorno-Karabakh, and they are very much held together by a very tenuous ceasefire based upon the Trump route for peace and prosperity, which has not really gone into effect. In addition to that, the largest Azeri population in the world is in northern Iran. There are more Azeris in northern Iran than there are in Azerbaijan itself. And those people want their own independent state. They want a greater Azerbaijan. Those Azeris who are in Iran, they want to be part of their homeland, their motherland in Azerbaijan. Go a little bit north from there. Russia and Ukraine are in the 4th year of their war. You're seeing strikes by Russian drones all the way to the far east of Ukraine, all the way to places like Lviv. We've seen Russian drones over Poland, over Romania, over Moldova. At any minute could kick off into a hot war between NATO, or what's left of it, and the Russian Federation. We're seeing rearmaments across the world. Poland is building the largest ground army in Europe by 2030. Germany has doubled their defense spending. France, UK, all across the lines, they are preparing for war. This is the mobilization you see prior to a war taking place. Move over to the Americas. The U.S. has already kidnapped the president of Venezuela. They've killed nearly 200 people in small boats in the Pacific and in the Caribbean. We are currently, right now today, in the midst of a naval blockade of Cuba, where we have cut off all fuel shipments to the island in order to hopefully spark a civil war and the overthrowing of the Castro regime and the placement of Marco Rubio as the provincial governor of Cuba. That's going on right now. Remember the cartel war going on in Mexico from 2 weeks ago? Although people getting slaughtered and catching on fire after they killed El Mencho, that's still going on. We just stopped paying attention to it. Go look south from there. The U.S. is working with the dictator of El Salvador to fill up the concentration camps they have there with migrants, in addition to executing direct military strikes on drug cartels in Honduras. So you can nearly circumnavigate the globe, and it's nothing but wars and conflicts. So my question is to you, the listeners, are we already in a world war? And we just haven't named it that, because remember, World War I wasn't called World War I when it started. In 1914, everyone said we'll be home by Christmas. And that war went on until 1919. World War II, we didn't call that World War II when we were in the midst of it. We didn't even call World War I World War I. We just said it was the Great War. But in World War II, that was just a border dispute. And if Hitler had just simply said, we're going to take part of Poland back, we're going to reunify with Austria, we'll take a little bit of the Sudeten lands and some of the border territories, the Western powers would have appeased them to simply prevent another repeat of World War I. Nobody thought it was going to ignite into global conflagration that it ended up being, with atomic bombs being dropped. So when you're looking at the powder keg that we are sitting on globally, where half of the world is already at war with each other, where you're talking about cutting off 20% of the global oil supply just through the Straits of Hormuz, with the potential shutting down the Suez Canal and the Al-Badab Straits. I mean, once you cut off energy, just as we're seeing in Cuba, and this is why that's a great microcosm, once you cut off energy supplies to any nation, you're creating the conditions precedent for war. Because energy is what drives our modern economy. That's why it was a stupid idea to get rid of all the windmills and the Green New Deal and everything that could have actually supplemented the oil-based economy. That's the reason we're making all those investments in green energy, so we wouldn't be so beholden to the Middle East that Trump got rid of for his oil buddies. But when you cut off the oil supplies, then that cuts off energy, meaning you can't run your lights. You can't do refrigeration. You don't have television. You don't have access to the internet. You cut off oil supplies to most nations, natural gas supplies to most nations. You set them back 100 years in development overnight. And that creates social unrest. That creates the conditions where people will rise up against their government. Hunger does a different thing to people. You can be nationalistic. You can be patriotic. You can be idealistic. You can be a religious zealot. But hunger is what drives warfare. And when a population is hungry and starving and don't see a way out, that's when they are ready to take up arms and fight. And those are the conditions that President Trump and the weekend host from Fox and Friends has put the global community in. But we want to hear from you guys. Calling 44726-1380. Get involved in the conversation. Are we already in, or will we soon be, in a world war? I want to hear from you guys. News and Talk 1380 WAOK.